Hello, this is Brian.
And this is Stephanie.
Welcome to the making and the remaking of a codependent mind. We are on our second episode of season 9, what we're calling the
Appendices.
The Appendices, yes. So it's been a little while since our last episode, but we are releasing these as we record them. And I had realized we're coming up on 4 years of doing the podcast and having written the 2 books. And I wanted to take a step back for a moment and reread our books and think about where I'm at with these various behaviors. Because I know, just throughout our days, I still see several of these behaviors pop up. And I kind of wanted to see, where have I improved? Where am I still kind of needing a little more support or ideas, strategies, maybe for new kinds of strategies, maybe that we haven't quite explored.
So you reread both of the books with that in mind. It was kind of an exercise of wanting to follow our own advice.
Right. To see how am I doing with with me, you, and us. Am I using the tools effectively?
Exactly. So we're just going to talk through some of the insights that you got from the books that you wrote and how you did that kind of analysis, where the growth has been for you, and then also, as you were saying, what the challenges are still. I think one piece of good news is that you found both the books helpful.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. I took a lot of notes and pulled out some quotes and put them into the various sections that I was thinking about, and the quotes were helpful to me,
Oh, and on that point, if anyone's interested in looking at these notes, I think we'll send them out to our newsletter list, which we started a couple months ago. So if you're interested in reading more about the kind of self-analysis Brian did using the books, you can go to our website and sign up for that newsletter. But we're going to talk through that now. And I thought we'd start with the idea of trauma triggers, which we talk about in our first book. That was an early moment of self-awareness for you, recognizing that what was happening is that your trauma was being triggered. And even in that moment of recognition you describe in the first book, just even knowing that was happening was a huge step forward in being able to manage those situations differently. How do you feel you are now?
Well, I on hindsight, I think I mentioned this in the book, but I wished I had come up with that awareness earlier, because I don't know, it was months, if not almost a year of doing some of this work without really that knowledge of trauma triggers. And it was very difficult not having that awareness. But once I had the awareness, some of the healing came about kind of quickly. And now, I haven't really thought about it in a while, but it's true that just being aware of the feeling when it starts to come on, because it's really a severe feeling to go into freeze. And that's really the biggest one for me, because trauma triggers, I still get them every day to some extent.
Yeah, so let's just remind people, in case they don't have the first book, what we're talking about here. So you find yourself in a situation, and for you, the situations were interpersonal, because that's where your trauma was, that's where your wounds came from. So you find yourself in a situation. It could be a conflict situation or maybe even not. And something about that interpersonal exchange send you back into the past when you were defenseless, when you were under threat, and you react to the current situation as if it is that past situation. So you react to a current situation as if there's a large and imminent threat in front of you. So your strategies in the past, when you were largely defenseless as a child, were freeze and fawn. So what you're describing is you started to notice, oh, I'm going into freeze mode, but I'm sitting here with Stephanie, who loves me.
Right.
So why is that happening? Like, what's the threat? Like, why am I feeling so much fear?
Right.
And you're feeling fear because the past is being triggered.
Yep. And it definitely always 100% starts with a feeling in the body. So to put it simply, anxiety, but I feel the anxiety in my body. And so it's not always easy to recognize immediately, right? Because lots of things can make you anxious for various reasons.
And sometimes anxiety is downplaying it. It really feels like fear.
Yes. Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
For
so
sure.
your body's going threat.
Mm-hmm. If I'm not aware of it at all, then that could just take over. And that was the problem. My system going, alert, there's something dangerous going on here. I need to do what I did in the past, which was freeze and wait for it to be over, basically, and then try to do whatever I can to get the person to not be angry or upset or whatever it is that I felt as a threat, which was a threat, like we said, back in those early days. Say like my dad or that friend we've talked about in this podcast and the books, because that's what I found to be my most effective way out.
Yeah, the fawning, which is codependency behaviors.
Yes. So, all of the stuff we're going to talk about here is a spectrum, and I've moved well along the spectrum when it comes to the way I respond to these trauma triggers. So I still feel the impulse, I still feel fear, I still feel anxiety, and often it's extremely difficult to not go into some kind of mode where I feel like I have to do something. I have to say something to diffuse this situation. So that's why I'm not like all the way to the other end of the spectrum or anything. I mean, this may be the rest of my life that I get this feeling, but at least I can short circuit enough to go, where am I? Because that does not take very long. And I've started to do it automatically. I just know that you're a safe person, even though you may say something that is, wow, that gives me some shame, because that reminds me, that's not your fault, though. You're not an unsafe person attacking me.
Well, and you have strategies to deal with that as well.
Yes, that's true.
Beyond freezing and fawning. So we don't I don't see the freeze anymore.
I haven't had that in a long time. Yeah, years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that progress happened during the podcast. I think I still got hit with freeze a handful of times.
And like we're saying, it's clear that you don't enjoy when I'm angry.
Oh, yeah, right.
But I don't see the freeze face. Mm-hmm. And with me anyway, I don't see the fawning either. I don't, like, you don't go into like, oh, I'm sorry, right? Like you're able to sit there and do emotional processing, even in this kind of heightened situation.
Yeah, I can be present, even though I may be nervous and anxious and worried about what might happen and all that kind of stuff, which I think is approaching normal, right?
Right. If you're able to feel it all, that means you're not freezing. If you're able to recognize, like, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I'm feel embarrassed or ashamed. And you are able to do that now. So another area that you've made pretty significant progress in is this emotional processing, the ability to understand your emotions and to kind of name them and act on them.
Right, exactly. I mean, because that's not something that I would... So even just going, I feel anxious, it seems weird to me to think that there was a time, being most of my life up until not too long ago, that I didn't even think that. I wouldn't even acknowledge it. Like, I would feel it in my body, and that's about it. And then I would react from it. But now it's become a habit to go, I feel anxious.
And what's great is it's not only been a habit to say that, because I think some people could say that. And anxiety is a pretty easy one too, because the whole idea of anxiety is that you have this feeling of fear or dread and you don't know where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, usually fear is pretty clear. So I think some people just default, well, I feel anxious, and then stop there. But you are also able to say, like, I'm going to figure out why.
Yes, right.
Emotional signals plus your capacity as a human being to do some analysis as to what's happening.
And the two big things that I've learned to do, that I do, and it's more difficult to do in the moment, like say during a conflict or something, but I think to some extent I do it then even too, separating the emotions. So when we say anxiety, that's not all that useful, more like a catch-all. Like you said, fear is more specific. I may feel some anger in there, and maybe I'm feeling fearful of my anger, like being able to separate my emotions to where I know exactly what I'm feeling. And then if I have time, which is usually more retroactive, I then sit with them and I see what they're trying to tell me. When I have time, I have built the capacity enough and the knowledge of my emotions to be able to do it more real time, to where it's kind of quick. Not always, obviously, but again, this is approaching, I don't want to use the word normal, but I'm just going to do it here, to be approaching the other end of the spectrum. It's difficult for everyone to process some emotions real time, especially when you're feeling a huge amount of fear or anger or something like that. That could really take over, and it could be difficult to figure out the other competing emotions. But I'm approaching that as opposed to just this vague feelings where I'm not naming anything and I'm just reacting blindly and trying to lie or whatever it is I'm trying to do to not feel that anymore.
And even through most of your life, denying that you were feeling it.
Yes.
Denying that you were afraid, denying that you were disappointed, denying that you were embarrassed. like just really like literally not letting yourself feel that, let alone naming it, and then let alone thinking about why you're feeling that and what information that feeling is.
Right. I mean, when I think about the Jay relationship, where we had a little crossover at the end there, where you would see me afraid, and I couldn't admit that. I couldn't admit that I was afraid. I mean, even though I was kind of terrified. I mean, but I wouldn't admit it to myself. So I couldn't even say it out loud. And it would have gone a long way for me to just go, you know what? I'm afraid. I'm afraid of this person. Oh, let's talk about that. Why do you think you're afraid? Well, I'm afraid what she might say. Okay, why is that? What do you think that's going to happen? You know, like that's a starting point for a conversation. And
well, yeah, and you bring up conversation, and this is, again, I know we've talked about this, but it is really helpful, especially when you're learning to identify and process your emotions. And when you didn't have that opportunity to learn how to do that as a child, because your emotions, there was no space for them, there was no place for that. It's very helpful to have someone to talk through. Even for me, for sure, it's helpful. Sometimes I just feel like I'm feeling off today. I don't really know why, you know, and you know, sometimes there's no answer. It's just like the Monday blahs or something, but often like talking through it with someone and thinking about kind of what has happened recently or what's happened in our relationship or other relationships is really helpful in getting to kind of the root of the information that the emotion is trying to give you.
And so knowing what these emotions feel like, which I did a lot of work with. And in the earlier days, a lot of that work was doing it in safety, being like, thinking about last week, last month, last year, and trying to place the emotions that were there. And it's pretty easy to do that. What did I avoid at the time? You know, oh yeah, I was afraid. You know, even though I may not have said that at the time, it's pretty easy for me to pinpoint that at this point.
Or I was angry, or I was embarrassed.
Yeah, right.
Or I was disappointed, or I was...
Or ashamed.
Insecure, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's where I kind of developed my emotional vocabulary. And
by looking back.
Yeah.
But now, as you're saying, you're finding you can do it in the present moment as well.
Right. Much more easily, much more readily and automatically.
But some of these emotions, so we're describing this kind of, I guess, process, right? Like there's the feeling of it. So you have to allow yourself to feel it. And then you have to be able to kind of narrow it down, recognize, get as specific as you can as to what type of feeling, and then do some analysis as to where that's coming from and maybe what information it's giving you, and is it real information or false information? There's some emotions that have been so scary for you to feel that it's still a challenge. That first part is still bit of a challenge.
Yeah,
that
that's
first
true.
part of just allowing yourself to feel those emotions without suppressing them or compartmentalizing them.
Yeah, and it's the fact that I still have some that are like that, and I see, and now we were talking about this last night, when I think about how quickly that process of dismissing those emotions is, and I go, wow, that's what I did with all of them. But the fact that I still do it, it's amazing to see how quickly that happens. So anger being one of my bigger ones that I'm still very afraid of. And
I mean, we're assuming you're afraid of it because the way you talk about it, it comes up and then it disappears almost immediately.
Right. And this is not just anger that someone else is showing, it's my own. Like I can't allow myself to inhabit anger for very long. It's similar to shame, but I've done a lot of work on shame.
You have done a lot of work on shame. And I mean, I think you've done more work on shame than I have. Like you have built, I think, a tremendous capacity to face your shame and to reckon with it and either put it aside as not accurate information about you in the world, or to process it and forgive yourself for the behaviors that you now feel are shameful.
Yeah, like past ones.
Right.
Yeah, right. And there's often things I can do with that still, even though it is from 5-10 years ago or something. There's still something I can, being like, is this me now? Do I believe that? Is this a way I would want to behave now? Do I behave this way now? Like, there's a lot of things I can do with it where I go, well, no. If the answer is to no to all that stuff, then why am I still hung up on it?
And we talked about that last episode. But so, yeah, I think shame as a thread that goes through both books, you have made real growth in that area. But yes, anger still seems to be one that your capacity to feel anger and to receive it and be informed by it and directed by it, that still seems challenging.
I think in part because I haven't done a lot of work with it. I have, and that's exactly what I wanted to find out by doing this little project, is to see what areas like that and then try to think, what can I do? What can I do to get myself used to anger? What kind of strategies can I do to where I need to be able to name anger quickly before I dismiss it, and then, okay, wait, yeah, I think I'm feeling anger here now. Let's explore why I'm feeling it.
Maybe we should do an episode on anger, because it's really interesting topic and interesting emotion.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people with codependent behaviors are afraid of anger.
So they just manage to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
And we have on the other side the narcissists who can't turn it off.
Yeah, right.
Which is no more healthy. We're not saying you should always be angry. And that's then also curiosity is one that you still feel that you need to build the capacity for that.
Yes, right. So I've made, again, with the spectrum thing, I've come quite a ways along the spectrum when it comes to my own curiosity and my own myself, in my past, in who I am, in my emotions, what they're telling me. I apply that curiosity almost every day. What am I feeling? Oh, I'm feeling, like you said, off. I'm feeling off today. I explore it on my own. And if I need to talk to you about it, I talk to you about it. But interpersonal curiosity in other people, still, I have a major disconnect there. So just like the anger thing, I've had to take a step back and figure out what's going on there.
Because other people, for most of your life, you perceived as a threat. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to be curious about threatening people.
Yeah, well, and I just waited for them to give me some sort of expectation. I didn't feel any sort of power. And power over pursuing curiosity, that's power, That's feeling as though I can pursue. And so it's a little bit of a reflex. But also there's other things going on there. Like I have a tendency to focus too much on my own experience. If you want to call it self-centeredness, maybe there's a nicer word to use than that. So it interrupts empathy. And when empathy is interrupted, it's hard to explore curiosity because I'm not really thinking about you or anyone else. I'm thinking about my own experience. I'm walking around going like, I'm feeling this. Oh, that's pretty. I'm like, how is this all making me feel about myself internally? What am I feeling? And I'm not focused enough on, I wonder what she's feeling. I wonder what she's doing. It doesn't enter my mind enough. But other people, as we've said in our books, in our podcasts, is the most important resource for any human is other people. Like we're pack animals. We rely on other people. And if I'm not curious enough in other people, then I got this little bubble of myself here. And that's really risky.
And if we think about another area that we talk about definitely in the second book, and that is challenging for everyone, or not everyone, but most people, this conflict, being in conflict with other people. Some of these feelings, anger and curiosity, are helpful in negotiating conflict. The anger one being, sometimes it's real conflict and you need to stand up for yourself or stand up for other people. And anger is a feeling that helps you do that. It's this kind of fuel, but also curiosity, if you can. You don't have to get angry. I mean, another way to deal with conflict is to kind of switch into curiosity mode and decide that it's interesting that you're in conflict. And we talk about this, I think, in the second book, and treat it as an opportunity to learn about the other person or about the world.
Right.
But so if you don't have access to those feelings, that might be one reason why conflict still is. I mean, I don't like conflict either, but I was able to spend my youth in learning how to navigate it better and learning to be comfortable in it and learning to feel that I can protect myself and protect my integrity within conflict. So I've gotten better at it, but you kind of started from almost zero, zero ability to handle conflict. Like that was freeze mode. Like that's how you handle it.
Yeah. And if I like your idea of doing an episode on anger, because I would love to explore how it feels for you and what you do when you feel it and how you explore it. And
see, there you go, being curious.
Yeah, right. Because I don't know anything else. I almost never explore it. I reflexively shut it down. It's like putting my hand on a hot stove. That we've talked about hot stove before. But anger is one of my biggest hot stove feelings.
So you have to walk into conflict without a lot of tools.
Yeah, defenseless kind of, because like you said, sometimes there's an appropriate feeling in a conflict. If someone says something disrespectful or to you or to, I need to be able to inhabit that and go and then respond from that place and not be rationalizing, oh, they mean well, oh, they didn't really mean that, oh, they, this is what, this is, I'm just grasping for agreement.
But in general, very positive movement in terms of emotional processing. And I like how you mentioned that on a daily basis or almost on a daily basis, you are directing curiosity towards yourself about what you're feeling, and in a curious way, again, not in a judgment way. So like, oh, I'm feeling bad, I'm failing somehow if I'm feeling bad, and I'm succeeding if I'm feeling good. But like, just really like curious, like, what am I feeling and where is that coming from, and how is that going to change how I move through my day? Because that's been part of another overarching theme that I think you found in reading the book is your development of your sense of self
as an autonomous individual, and feeling agency and being able to make decisions for myself, and then and the feeling of like I'm responsible for those decisions. Yeah, I feel that on a daily basis too.
So this idea of, I don't think we use the term in either book, but this idea of selfhood, of full personhood, you've really come into that. Like, who is Brian? There's a much more robust answer to that question than there was some years ago. And the idea of selfhood, I kind of want to talk about in two pieces. One, the knowledge of oneself, and then the other piece is the acting on that knowledge. So that the sense of what you were just saying, being an autonomous person, being a self that is separate from other selves, that has its own definition, its own boundaries, and acting under that belief that you are autonomous.
Which sounds so simple, but it's not. When I think back to when I didn't feel that.
Well, we have described codependency as a powerlessness habit. Powerlessness is at the root of codependency, this habitual response to the world as that you have no power, that other people and other forces have power over you. So, I mean, you've made, I think, tremendous strides in both of those, but particularly with the knowledge.
Right. From doing this work that we've called rewriting stories, for sure.
Both the understanding your emotions, was a big piece, but yeah, and then the rewriting stories.
And I had to include that emotion work with the rewriting stories, because I did try to do it before I had a grasp on my emotions, and they were half accurate at best, Like,
yeah, you would just be telling another story.
Yeah, I'm just telling a story, right? It's just like, okay, here's what happened. And then often it wasn't correct, because if I was leaving out what I was feeling. So it's just like I'm often just retelling details that I have been in the same way I was already telling them, which often wound up changing drastically once I included the feelings in them. And then now I'm remembering all these new details. But going back and thinking about my family, the family of origin, where my behaviors came from, what all my previous relationships were like, who I was in those relationships, how I acted, how I was inauthentic basically the entire time, like in those previous two romantic relationships. A lot of shame in that work, so I got to exercise my shame muscle quite a bit, and then wound up coming out of it going, okay, this is what really happened more or less during all that time, rather than this kind of vague, like, oh, I'm moving on, whatever, past doesn't matter.
On our Instagram account, which is at this point just you reading clips from the two books, and the clip that's gone, I guess, most viral or semi-viral is one, well, why don't you read it?
Yeah, this is from chapter 3 of the first book. The quote is, while other children were learning who they were as individuals, discovering sources of personal power, learning about their emotions, figuring out how to navigate the complicated world of interpersonal relationships, I was doing none of that. Instead of learning about myself, I was focused on learning about other people so I could manage their emotions and behaviors. Instead of figuring out my wants, needs, and desires and how to achieve them, I was becoming very adept at figuring out what other people wanted, needed, or desired, and how to deliver on those.
That's gotten hundreds of thousands of views on Instagram. I think if you combine the two, it's almost 1 million views on Instagram and tens of thousands of likes and hundreds of comments. That feeling really resonates with people. The ways in which their opportunity and even their ability to learn about themselves and figure out who they were was robbed of them. People describe in comments on Instagram and elsewhere just this feeling of being in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, and really having no idea who they are or what they want from their life, and looking at other people and wondering how do they know what to study in university, or how do they know what they enjoy doing? Like literally the sense of being alienated from yourself, which is really a very sad state to be in. But the rewriting, I think the message from your experience is that it's not too late. It should have happened for you and for everyone earlier, but you've spent the last number of years going back through your life and learning as if you were experiencing it again, but this time learning who you were from it.
And it didn't take me 40 years to do it, or 50 years now at this point. It took me a few years to do really hard and sometimes painful work, but now I know, and now it makes sense. And now when I make decisions or when I experience something and I feel something in response, that feeling makes more sense too. I'm just not confused all the time, like what I'm feeling. And am I being authentic? I don't know. Who knows? I remember that feeling, and I've seen people ask that are early in recovery. Just, how do I know what I want?
You know what you want, and you can think about the future, and we can make plans, and that you don't have any relationships in your life that don't make sense to you. You just have a very deep sense of self-knowledge. And how does it feel at this point? I mean, you mentioned that it was hard and painful, but what does self-knowledge feel like now when you do that work, when you think about what you're feeling, or you think about how you're behaving or the relationships in your life?
It's exciting mostly. On a daily basis, it's exciting to be starting from a place of knowing myself and what do I want to do today, or why I love the city I'm living in. Why do I love it? I wouldn't have known that really in the past. I may have just had this vague feeling that I like this or don't like this, but it's pretty obvious to me now. And then what do I like about it, and what can I do within that framework? It's just exciting to know.
I certainly find the ongoing process of self-knowledge exciting. Yeah, I mean, looking at past behaviors that you can't change can be painful, but learning about myself is one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
And figuring things out about myself that I didn't know, as is figuring things out about other people. And so it's not always this kind of hard, painful slog. Once you get to a point, it's like, wow, this is fun, because the world is an interesting place and people are interesting. And the person that you have most access to is yourself. So I enjoy learning about myself. This is one of the greatest joys of our relationship, is walking along this path with you has also allowed me to grow tremendously and to learn more about my reactions and my behaviors and where they come from and what I value and what I need.
Yeah. So that excitement fuels a growth mindset. I find myself, I don't have that word in mind a lot, but that's what I'm feeling, I think. I want to continue to grow. And it's not like this, like, oh, I need to always be changing or something, but just growing, just knowing myself better every day. The more I know, the better I feel. And things change all the time too. So that's part of growth too, that maybe I don't necessarily resonate with something anymore.
Yeah, the environment changes and people change, other people change, and being able to respond to that in real time from a place of self-knowledge, but also increasing your knowledge through that process. I don't know, it's pretty great.
Yeah, because I used to do that in the past too. Obviously, just hang on to something. Oh, I like this, and I can never not like it. I'm a person that likes this.
So the knowledge piece of selfhood, but the autonomy piece, you've also made great strides. But that, I think, is a little more challenging for you because it's the habit was so ingrained.
Yes.
To give over your power to whatever person or situation you found yourself in.
And when we talk about this, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is. It's more like a reflex than anything. I was trying to come up with these sort of worded versions of what was going on, but yeah, it wasn't quite accurate or complete enough somehow. It's just a feeling. Yeah, it's when, say, just the potential of conflict in any given moment, I have this reaction, which is a trauma response. It's my body is feeling threat from this potential misalignment, or, like reading your reaction to something. I'm talking, I'm seeing your face, I'm hearing your voice in response, and I'm sensing misalignment here. And that feels like a threat. And then the threat just feels the same in my body as it used to. It's even though it's much less severe.
We've said this a number of times. Like, it's a normal human reaction. We're very attuned to each other. There's safety in numbers. Like that's literally true. And so there's a reason why it's a baked in response to want to be aligned with other people, to not be alone. We weren't built to be alone. It's a very vulnerable situation to be alone. So I think that fear response makes sense, but that became the driving emotion, the most important emotion for you, and was for so many years that you habitually respond to that fear. you don't process it. You don't feel it and process it and respond. You just take it as true. Like, this is scary.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, I go into this mode that we call performance mode. And that can be anywhere from kind of minor to severe, where I go into this mode where suddenly I'm afraid of this misalignment. I'm afraid of potential judgment, which is a kind of a preemptive shame. Like, I'm afraid of what that might mean, what this disagreement might mean, or what it might mean that about me or something. And I go into this performance mode and I lose my ability, various abilities. Like, I lose ability for empathy. I lose ability for curiosity. I lose my capacity when I'm in performance mode. And this is when I still am dishonest. I've made a lot of progress on honesty and not lying and withholding. But when I go into performance mode, it's a version of dishonesty because I'm not really coming from a place that we talked about, all these autonomous and self-knowledge and authentic. I'm coming from this place of like, I need to make sure I say the right thing here.
Or something bad will happen. And that's that feeling. The feeling that something bad will that still kind of overruns. At the root of that feeling is a sense of powerlessness. Because it's true, something bad can happen.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
When we're not aligned with people, something bad can happen. Like, they can be disappointed, they could be angry, we could be disappointed, and we could be angry. One of these people might not get what they want or what they need. But the sense of your own agency and power means that that's okay. You'll be able to deal with that situation.
And not only okay, but better than okay. Like, it's like we talked about in our chapter on conflict in the book, it should be seen as an opportunity. It's hard to do.
Well, and some people you don't want to be aligned with. I mean, we talked about this all the way through. Some of the worst things in your life happen to you. And certainly the worst things in your life that you've done is because you were lining up with people who you needed to be in conflict with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the worst case. But also, even just with us, though, if I'm collapsing my autonomy because I'm afraid of being out of alignment, I'm automatically assuming, basically, that you're right. Whatever it is, it's just like, okay, I'm deferring to you.
Yeah, what I need or what I want or what I think is automatically correct.
And then now, like, maybe some legitimate need or some legitimate opinion or idea that I had is gone. Like, I've just let it go.
And also, I don't get the opportunity for growth. Like, there's no opportunity for growth when there's performance rather than authentic exchange. But you're a lot better than you were.
Yeah, I know. Again, so this whole thing, like, I've moved, the needle has moved quite a bit down this spectrum, but there's still always plenty of room to grow. And
which is great because you're growing or you're dying.
Yeah, right. That's true.
We were thinking of the plant analogy. Plant's growing or is dying? Like, there's no plant that just sits there.
Yeah. So when I think about my experience from reading our two books, again, it felt exciting to me, not just because I thought they were well written, pat ourselves on the back, but it was nice to see this progress that I've made. And that's done. Like, some of that stuff, like the self-awareness, I'm not going to unsee that stuff now at this point. So, like, my knowledge about my past relationships and stuff like that. And the progress I've made on the emotions, and it's just exciting to know that I've made these changes and there's so many new habits. But also, it's exciting that there is more to learn. Like, so I can apply these same techniques, and I do feel like we explain it pretty well in the book. And we'll probably think of more episodes like this that we can do, that we can zoom in on some things like anger or maybe performance mode or boundaries. I think we talked about doing that next.
We didn't talk about boundaries. Your experience of boundaries, because we have an episode in the works for that. Yeah,
like a real time that both of us have an experience with boundaries. It's a difficult thing sometimes what to do when your boundaries are crossed. But yeah, it's great to know that, none of this has to be permanent. Any of these things that are still difficult for me, they don't have to be like that forever. Like, I can make progress on all of them if I really want to.
And again, if anyone wants to read the notes and the grades, because you graded yourself on everything.
Yeah.
We're going to send that out as part of our newsletter, and you can sign up for that on our website.
Thanks again for joining us for another new episode. And our next one will probably be out in, a few weeks, 3-4 weeks. Thank you for joining us.